That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Trade Talk. This week we have Iron Man Extremis. This was, I believe, the beginning of Warren Ellis's run on Iron Man. So a couple months ago now, I asked for recommendations for good quality standalone Marvel stories, and I got recommended Extremis. So this obviously is trying to parrot the movie Iron Man in a lot of ways, but still stick with the comic book continuity. And so it's definitely going for more of a techie premise. And it's so interesting that Extremis, of course, comes out within the first couple of years of the first Iron Man, and then it's the plot of Iron Man 3, and it gives you a sense of what the turnover rate is on so many of these books. You just have such a high rate of turnover of stories in comics that are now getting translated to film. And that's really interesting in a weird way. We've got these characters who have been around for, Iron Man's 50 years old at least, right? And yet they're going for a story that came out within 10 years of the movie. It's kind of crazy that they chose to adapt that. And it's not a direct adaptation, but it is. A lot of the elements are there. Ellis does a good job, I feel, with establishing scene. I really like, he does this at the beginning of every chapter, this 3-panel sequence to establish location and what's going on. And that's pretty cool. I really like that. The premise of Extremis is pretty simple. A group of domestic terrorists get a hold of this super soldier serum called Extremis that is a lot more fucked than the Captain America version. And it kind of stomps all over the Iron Man armor, and so Tony's got to build a better armor and find a way to beat Extremis through it. It's not as cut and dry as that, though. There's definitely a lot going on here that's got a deeper character focus for Tony. So it takes what you would kind of think of as just the Iron Man story of how you do an Iron Man story, and it builds upon it and relates it in a lot of ways to the character and to the role in which Tony Stark fills as an, industrialist, as a capitalist. And so that's pretty interesting. I quite like that about it. Where do I go to talk about this? Because, he tries to take on this Extremis guy at one point in his latest, most advanced armor. But the dude's too fast, and so he just gets, immediately wrecked. The Extremis guy is able to completely annihilate him, and take his systems offline. He just destroys him. This panel pretty much sums up everything. This whole page kind of sums up everything because he's super destroyed. And he gets hurt so bad that he's basically going to die. He's got so many internal injuries, he's dead fucked. So he gets transported to the lab where Extremis is and reveals his secret identity. I'm so not used to Iron Man having a secret identity. Reveals his secret identity to the creator of Extremis, who he's known for years, and convinces her to reprogram Extremis with him and inject him with it. Get a flashback to when he was in the cave. The whole, Tony Stark had built it from scraps in a cave. Do that whole flashback scene. It's very reminiscent of the movie. And then he wakes up and he hasn't reprogrammed Extremis to give him superpowers. He's reprogrammed Extremis to connect him to the suit more readily. So, like, in the comic book, Extremis is different from the movie Extremis in that it rewrites your DNA to rebuild the human body. So, like, the way they explain it is if you cut yourself, your DNA is programmed to recognize that as an injury and rebuild the tissue according to a blueprint that's stored within your DNA. It's not incredibly accurate, but it's not super off. Extremis rewrites the blueprint, and so it forces the human body to build itself differently. And so that's where you get the super strength and speed and breathing fire and whatnot. It's comic books, right? But Tony sees a lot more potential with that than superpowers. He sees the potential in regards to the Iron Man suit. So he has the Extremis rewrite his DNA to be one with the suit. And that's really interesting on a character level for Tony Stark. Throughout this entire book, we're dealing a lot with a character who feels very disconnected from the world and who is trying to do right, but is very very isolated from people, not only literally but emotionally distanced from others, and has a hard time really maintaining any kind of human connection. And so the Iron Man armor literally becoming one with him as a way to improve it, but also as a way to improve himself, is pretty damn interesting, and I quite like that as a premise for the story arc and kind of where it takes him. So he leans into it and keeps getting further and further into it. At one point, there's this great scene where this journalist is interviewing him about all the harm he's done as Tony Stark weapons manufacturer. And then he's like, "You've said you've seen my films. What on earth would make you agree to talk with me?" And he's like, "You've worked very hard. Most people have no idea of the kind of work you've done. Intellectuals, critics, and activists follow your films closely, but culturally, you're almost invisible, Mr. Pillinger. Have you changed anything?" "I don't know." "Me neither. It's been an honor to meet you." So I really like the idea that Tony Stark is aware of what he's done wrong. He's a man painfully aware of his sins, but he's trying to do right. And so he's so socially and structurally isolated from people. There's all these scenes where his company keeps trying to get a hold of him and keeps trying to get him to act like a actual boss, and he just doesn't have any interest in that side of things. But at the same time, he won't give up the CEO position because he knows that Stark Industries would go back to manufacturing weapons. So he's got them like producing the most advanced cell phone in the world, which is, I mean, that's the problem with trying to write cutting edge technology. It's kind of painfully dated. Like some of it's obviously not things that we have, but like some of it just feels really dated. We're calling it the Stark Beam 01 right now. We agreed with you that it'd be best to build a Beam instant messaging system right in. Your test handset there has a special stage of functionality. It connects directly to the Stark ZipSat constellation. It has satellite internet access, broadband access. You can download an MP3 to your phone in 30 seconds. I gotta see. Where can I go to download an MP3 real quick? Oh. I know. I can go to archive.org where I upload Geeky Gentlemen. All right, let's do that. Oh, it's .org. I gotta know, like you gotta know this kind of thing. Music. Music. Just gotta find like MP3 is like what? Usually, it's what people used to call like a 3-minute song, right? Come on, just give me the fucking music page. I love you, archive.org, but you are just organized to shit. God damn it. Load. I will admit, this is taking forever, but that's on the website. Okay. Sugarfoot Stomp. I don't know what that is, but we're going to download it from archive.org. 3 minutes and 8 seconds. Perfect. Alrighty. Scroll down. And MP3. Just the 6.1 megabyte one. Alright, ready? Getting it to download doesn't count in time-wise, because otherwise that'd be a different thing. Started downloading. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 seconds. Woo! Most advanced cell phone in the world. God, shit like that starts to feel really dated, though, when you're writing technology. And really, the way you say that is you can download... You just make the scale ridiculous, or you get really vague. So instead of saying you can download an MP3 in 30 seconds, you say you can download a song in seconds. And that sounds faster. You can download a song in an instant. Even faster than seconds. Right? It's just basics of writing technology. You can hook your phone to any computer via Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, USB, all still things, or FireWire. Not a thing anymore. So a lot of this just feels kind of funnily dated, but it's interesting on a character level for the way in which, like, Tony Stark keeps isolating himself from people. He spends so little time around people in this, and then it's interesting what the person he does spend time with ends up doing, because it's this Maya woman who's in charge of Extremis, and she helps him to build the Iron Man suit better and better and better, and then he solves a mystery at the end of how these domestic terrorists got a hold of the Iron Man of the Extremis formula after he's able to defeat him in a really, really kick-ass scene where it's basically about the arms race, which is really cool. He's able to defeat the Extremis thing and then solves the mystery of how they got it. It's because she needed to do a test run to show the power of an Extremis soldier versus the power of the Iron Man. And I really like her rationale because it kind of goes back to this internal struggle that Tony's dealing with this idea of, should I still work for the government? Should I still work for military funding like all these other people are telling me I should? You know what they said about the atomic bomb? They say it had to be used once in anger in order that it never be used in anger again. I would have used the renewed funding to get out of the arms race, set up on my own medical technology. More than 50 people die in car accidents every day. The only mistake I made was giving a damn about who was inside the Iron Man suit. There's no difference between us, Tony. You're no better than me. And this is where we get the whole point of the book, the whole point of the character arc. But I'm trying to be. And I'm going to be able to look at myself in the mirror tomorrow morning. I really like that. It's this idea of the arms race, of getting stuck in this cycle of... there's a lot of really, really good ideas in this that connect really well to, I think, what a lot of the heart of an Iron Man story is, about the person who is not a good person, but he's trying, and that's the important part. I really like that. It's pretty good standalone, nice Iron Man story. Definitely expect this to come up as an option when we're on a Marvel month for Comic Book Club, because I think this would be a great thing to be able to talk about with people. Keep in mind, I'm not an Iron Man guy really at all. I like Robert Downey Jr.'s films just fine and all, but I've never really read Iron Man in the comics for any reason. It's just not a Marvel guy, definitely not an Iron Man guy, and so this really worked for me. It was a pretty good story, and I quite enjoyed it. All right, that'll do it for Trade Talk, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye.
That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.